bystanders. Welcome to another episode of a Angel and Her Unicorn comic book reviews. I'm Alan the Unicorn, and with me today is...
James.
Just James.
Thank you.
Just like Bond. And I mean, like, he looks like him, he acts like him. On a daily basis, he's always trying to fight evil. So, I feel like you pretty much are James Bond. We will be reviewing the books for the week, spoiling
Without
them.
the misogyny.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe. Well, let's reserve judgment till the end of the show. I'll see what we can do. Let's not set our standards way too high, because, we'd like to reach them eventually. We will be spoiling the books of the week. If you haven't read your books, you may want to take a moment to pause and go read your books, and or just listen to the rest of our banter and ignore us anyways. But we will be spoiling them. Also, I didn't have a video for last week. It was Pride Week, and so I was gone most of the week, and then I also lost my co-host to the summertime, so I maybe end up trying to find a new co-host, or I may end up having to make James come on every week until summer's over. I don't know. We'll see. Or I may just start doing videos by myself, because, I'm pretty cool. I'm not as cool, though, without people. Like, my humor sucks without people. So anyways, and until then, until I figure it out, just bear with me, because, all 31 of you will, I'm sure, be sorely disappointed if I find a co-host at some point. But maybe we'll get the dragon and hyena back at some point. It just depends on how well I can work out their schedule with their father. So, until further ado, you want to go first?
Sure.
All right. Did you get a new one?
No. I got a new case.
Oh, okay. I was like, this is schmancy.
Yeah.
You're trying to be all fancy-dancy.
Okay, so let's see. I'll do the best one I read this week first. It's The Incredible Hulk, Last Call. It's kind of a one-off story. It's done by Peter David and Dale Keown, the legendary team from years and years on the Hulk. They did a story that's set during the time that they were doing theirs, so it's not in the current thing, though it subtly ties into the current Hulk. The thing is that he can't die, and this one sets off that Bruce Banner's trying to kill himself because he's tired of being the Hulk, and the Hulk always stops it. So,
because the Hulk's a jerk.
And PSA: if you're thinking about
becoming a Hulk,
harming yourself, please call someone and get help.
That is very true. There are tons of outlets out there. If you are thinking of that life is no longer worthy, there is a lot of stuff out there that is amazing, and there's a lot of help and resources. You just have to reach out, and that's the hardest part, I think, is reaching out, because then you kind of admit that you actually have a lot of darkness inside of you.
And there's still some social stigma, but
yes.
So, that being said, anytime I talk about self-harm, I like to mention that. So it starts out with a girl that you find out was a friend of Betty Ross, and she works at a suicide prevention hotline. She starts out, a guy that she hooked up with at a bar is calling and hassling her, but then she takes a call, and it's Bruce Banner, and he's seeking help, and then he also knows that this gal knew Betty, and I guess at this point Betty's dead. One of the many villains killed her. So they talk back and forth, and he talks about the various times that he tried to jump off the Grand Canyon, and the Hulk climbed out of the hole at the bottom. And then I guess Marvel edited out this page in the print version. He tries to cut himself, and pills, and a gun, and in the print version this page doesn't exist.
Oh.
So she's telling him that um, life's worth living, and he tells her that Hulk is the fight part of the fight or flight reflex. And so he says, I hired a hitman, so it takes me getting hyped up out of the picture. And so she she gets him to open up about some of his experiences as the Hulk. He talks about when he first met Betty. She was in college. I guess she wasn't very impressed with any men, and he came by to meet Thunderbolt Ross. And as he walked by, he helps her with her homework, and he was like the first guy to impress her. And
I can't even be honest, do my homework is not impressed with.
And Thunderbolt's like, well, you're the first person that she's ever Thunderbolt's like, you talking to my daughter, Banner? He's I hope you don't mind, sir. He's like, mine? I'm astounded. She generally doesn't bother to talk to men or anyone.
Or anyone.
So and one of the things about Peter David's run was that the Hulk was always a side of his personality even before the Gamma Bomb released it. So it shows, his inner voice, which is the Hulk, telling him to be he's goading him on in the background. So then they flash forward to when they got married, and that she never really liked the Hulk, but the Hulk and her kind of came to an agreement. So it flashes through, and he Bruce is like, well, I'm he feels responsible for everything the Hulk has done, and she's like, well, you didn't ask to become the Hulk. You became the Hulk trying to save Rick Jones. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, what if I hadn't, what if I'd just been vaporized, and what would have happened to everybody's life without me? And so she and then he flashes forward to time one of the villains turned Betty into the monster, the Harpy, and he fights her, but he can't fight her without hurting Betty, and she's using all of her knowledge as his wife against him, and so then he gets her to he fights her and changes her back, and still protects her, and yeah. So he keeps talking to the gal at the suicide prevention line, and she keeps trying to tell him all the people that the Hulk has helped, and all the times the Hulk saved the world, and so then the guy that she was talking to earlier that was hassling her turns out to be Mr. Hyde of a super strong villainous bad guy. Too bad she's on the phone with the Hulk, and she'd been helping him. So the Hulk comes in and pounds him into dust, and he
big mincemeat at ya.
Yeah. She says, by the way, I hear your wife passed away. Lucky woman. What went through her mind anyway, marrying you? Did she even have a mind? Yeah, that wasn't a good call.
No,
so,
you don't do that.
Yeah. So, Hulk smashed.
Yeah.
And so the gal comes out and she's like, kind of final thing. I'd be dead if you hadn't have saved me. Do you think Betty would have wanted me dead? Nope. She says, well, then never forget that. And then so he calls off the hitman, and then you look up, and it turns out the hitman was Deadpool.
So God knows what he was going to end up with anyway.
Yeah. So, anyway. I liked it. It's Dale Keown drawing the Hulk. The man was born to draw the Hulk.
And yeah, the art
Peter
looked fantastic.
David.
Yeah.
They were just a great Hulk team. I loved all their stories, and so I'd give it I give it a 4.5.
Oh, getting close.
It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good.
Pretty dang good.
Yeah,
it looked really neat.
It.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna do. Did you get to read this yet?
Yes.
So I'm gonna do Black Cat #1, and I'm going to preface it with the covers are so stunning. Like, they had so many covers. Like, so many covers. And there was some artists that did such a great job and were just amazing art. Sadly, I wish the inside was as pretty, but it's not.
It wasn't horrible.
I don't know. It was just so hard to look at this beautiful cover and then flip open and see.
That's kind of Marvel's
mediocre
shtick,
art.
It's like any artist that's good, they just want them doing covers, and they
yeah.
And then the interior.
I mean, that's where the money's at.
Everybody's left.
Yeah. So
our friend
J. Scott Campbell makes like $300,000 a cover, like after
Marvel doesn't pay him that.
Right? No, he ends up. I mean, like just from like exclusive covers and stuff like that. I mean, he makes big money from
like
just doing
we've
a cover.
met Ashley Witter, who does the covers for Dr. Aphra and X-23, and all she does is the covers, and she's an up and comer, but she's already graduated to just covers. So.
Sad. Anyways, the art's okay. Like I
didn't hate it.
I did sadly. But the story is Felicia shows up at this party, and there's a certain detective. He's trying to, or like a security guard, the guy that's in charge of security of this party. He sees that she shows up. He's like, "What is she doing there?" The other guy's he's like, "Oh, it's fine. She'll be fine. We'll watch her." And then he divulges that he got hors d'oeuvres from these random people who are just random new staff that weren't vetted before. And so the guy flips out again. And he's like, "How did you get random staff in here? I told you no random staff. You're not supposed to vet everybody." So cuts to Felicia being at the party, and she's talking to one of her rivals. I guess a gang that she had already screwed over at some point. So the security guard goes down there, and he's talking to her, and he's like, "You need to leave. You know, you're not causing any trouble here. You need to go." So he kind of kicks her out of the party, and come to find out that the painting's missing anyways. So she gets in the car, and
she was the distraction.
Yeah, she was the distraction because they were gonna go after her and see her anyways. So then her accomplices are two prison guys that she had met, and then the car on the way out gets attacked by ninjas, which I think are the same ninjas that are with the girl at the party, the lady at the party.
The lady at the party's the head of the Thieves Guild.
Yes.
So you don't steal anything in New York without being a member and giving them their cut. And apparently Felicia was violating that.
No.
And apparently the Thieves Guild has access, this looks like the hand, ninjas, to back up their exclusivity.
Exactly, to back up their threats. Hilarity ensues. The one guy's got like all kinds of weird bullets. He keeps shooting out like nets and acid and other stuff, and the other guy's kind of a strong arm. So he's going around. The detective shows up and is kind of trying to stop her. Well, she loses him, and then she basically gets rid of them, and she tells the guys, "Well, I'll meet you back at at our lair." So she gets back to the lair. Everybody's I know. Why can't
if any of you have a line on a cheap lair to buy or rent, please let us know.
Preferably buy, because I want to be able to put my money into something that's not going to waste. I mean, I don't want to like rent a lair because then it's like, what if one time I'm hard up, I don't want it to be taken away. So you gotta have some kind of equity in there. But so they kind of have they're kind of chit chatting about things and about how the score went. And all of a sudden, there's a voice out of nowhere, and they all kind of go on edge, and it ends up being the guy that taught Felicia, which is the Black Fox.
And he was on the cover of... No, never mind. Never mind.
Okay. So then it cuts to a second story. It's kind of like a little whimsical, like a cartoony anime. Little short where she brings cats to a job, and they all kind of like talk and meows. It's really cute. And then they have a little short with the Black Fox, and the Black Fox is ripping off Dracula. Yeah. So then he gets Bloodstone come in to kill Dracula, and he's the distraction, so he takes the money and leaves away. And that's about it's like a little heist, real quick, 4-page heist. It was okay. For me, the art was not as strong as I thought it was going to be if you're going to really put out this title. I really thought they could have done a better. But they did some dynamic things in there. It wasn't too bad. It was just an okay story. It was I don't know. I'm curious to see what it's going to be. Is like a bunch of just her heisting things. Is it going to be like a Catwoman book? I don't know. It didn't make me enough for me to want to pick it back up. Another issue 2. I really wasn't that enthralled with everything. But like I said, these covers are stunning. So yeah, wow. I mean, they've had some really great ones out there. But I would give probably a 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. Obviously, if you're a Spider-Man, Black Cat, if you like that, if you like the character, you're probably going to be a lot more in-depth to be, really like the book. So I'm curious to what everybody thinks, though. What about you?
I liked it. I knew that the interior art was not going to be up to the level of the covers, but I enjoyed it. It was a fun little story. I haven't been reading up Spider-Man, so I don't know what the current status of everything was, and I didn't feel lost.
No.
I knew who the Hand was, and
they brought in the characters. Her little henchmen, and there wasn't a lot of characters to bring in. And it wasn't that bad. Like I said, it's just the middle of the road. There wasn't it didn't inspire me though to be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what the second one's gonna bring, because it was just, I don't know. It seemed kind of fun. I know it sounds silly for number 1, but it seems kind of final number 1, even though they bring in at the end, it's just okay, why do I even care about this guy that's showed up out of nowhere? I almost feel like this should have been maybe a number 2 or 3.
Now, I was thinking the Fox was on the cover of her first appearance, but he was on the cover of the first appearance of Silver Sable.
Oh, okay.
And they both got white hair, so sometimes
get a little confused.
Yeah,
I understand. It happens. But needless to say, if you like the character, great book for you. I just wasn't wowed. Middle of the road, nothing great, nothing bad, just kind of was. So, all right.
My next book is called Thumbs. It is by Sean Lewis and Hayden Sherman. It's from Image. I couldn't tell you the first thing about this book. It was very confusing. It starts out, some guy's been hurt, and they're trying to race him back to the headquarters to fix him up and heal him. The art is it's gray and pink, and that's it. It's white, various scales of gray and pink is
the only colors in it.
yeah. It's very disjointing, and then they keep using this slang. I need an old face in medical now, so it's like that. There's old people and young people, and that. Yeah, I don't know. And then they the gal that's with him is, you gotta stick with me, and she beats up anyone that gets in her way as she's racing in to get him fixed up, and he wants to see his sister Tabitha, and then there's this thing, Mother Iris, that is like an AI or something that records everything, and they show how he got hurt, which doesn't make a lot of sense, and so and then there's some talking and some interflection, and then there's a flashback to a trailer park, and these kids are being raised by a AI that's virtual because their parents can't be bothered to raise them, and
wow, I mean,
yeah,
that sounds fair.
Yeah, and then
I feel like that's fair.
And they're and then but this virtual AI can make dinner, and then he remembers his parents' hands. His dad always wore gloves, and his mom's hands were beat up because she was a cook, and so she was always cutting them and burning them, and then there's some words of wisdom from the parents that they remember, and then there's a video game, and then there's the woods. That, like, if you get good enough at the video game, then you go do it for real out in the woods, and then if you win, you get picked for something, and then somebody gets kicked in the nuts, and then they're in college, or yeah, and then there's breakfast cereal, which is important for some reason. And then there's an explosion. And then there's a big scary looking cop that's talking about executing people for treason and taking people away, and then there's more explosions, and then he wakes up in the hospital, and he's old. So, like, he'd been out for years, and it's not good.
Oh.
I don't know what's going on. I had no idea, start to finish, what was going on. I hated the color palette choices. The art was bad. Yeah, it's zero unicorn horns.
Zero.
It's
do we have our first zero unicorn horn?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah. That's sad.
They were going for edgy and youthful, and they just just stop.
Didn't work out, did it? No.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's get away from that. I'm going to do, it's Ignited Volume 1. But they call them volumes, but they're still like only like 33 pages. They're not really, like, it's not like a trade paperback or anything like that. But I guess it's a newer company. Humanoids. I never heard of Humanoids comics. There's a lot of things I don't hear about, so it just happens. But Mark Wade is the writer, and also Kwanzaa Osayafo. I'm so sorry. And the art is Phil
Lots of
Brandos.
lots of consonants.
Lots of consonants.
Yeah.
So this is something has happened, and it's kind of like mutants, but they for their world, but they call them being ignited, so they're kind of triggered. It talks about this this big thing that happened to where there was a school shooting, and it's kind of like everybody's finally starting to go back after the school shooting, and so this girl gets on the bus, she gets to the school, and there's all these people showing up for to get back to school. So they're going through, and she doesn't really talk that much. She doesn't say anything to hardly anybody, and it's kind of her going through the school, and they kind of show the different archetypes, and they they're just like the little characters, and then all of a sudden everybody's phone goes off, and it's this one person that is he's trying to say they want to arm all the teachers, but he's saying if they arm all the teachers, everybody's going to be sick. If you approve this bill to arm the teachers, so they approve the bill, and the principal
going to get sick, or they're going to be like a sick out.
Everyone's going to be sick. Everyone's going to get sick. So
why?
It's just the retaliation. So they approve the bill, and then the next day, all the teachers are like vomiting and like have to go to the bathroom and running out in class, and they're just like they get sick.
Okay.
So the next day, they're all kind of recovered a little bit, and so they're trying to figure out who this guy is with this mask, and it's kind of very many, a lot of storylines coming into one combination, but then this one guy that is part of the school, he has like a nightmare. He wakes up from the nightmare from the school shooting, and his brothers and friends are getting like kind of a militia, and they're like, well, if they're not going to arm the teachers, then we're going to take care of it, and we're going to we're going to secure the perimeter of the school. So he's like, me and my buddies, we've got this, and his mom ends up being a cop, and so she's like, I don't see a problem with it. So he's like, well, this is horrible, this is a bad idea, we shouldn't do this. So then it cuts back to the redhead that at the beginning of the book, and another message is happening, and so the guy that is streaming the messages is running through the school. So she's running to find him, and because she wants, like, her main goal is like to figure out who it is. She wants to figure it out. And so she's chasing this guy down. She ends up losing him. She sees the militia kind of show up to the school, and when that happens, all of a sudden this siren and all these noises start on, and the redhead runs up to the roof of the school, and she ends up being one of the kind of hipster guys that she had talked to earlier, and all of a sudden this invisible arm grabs her, and it's this guy that's kind of like these weird invisible colors. So I'm thinking like these are going to be the quote unquote powered people in the book, but it's a weird start, but oddly enough, like I kind of want to see what the second book is going to be about. I'm just like, okay, like I'm in. Like it revealed a little bit. Like there was a part where she's trying to figure out who the masked guy is, and she's talking to this girl in the bathroom, and then she kind of alludes that she knows, so she chases her down. Well, then she goes around the corner and chases down the hall, and the girl's inside this graffiti art. So she's kind of like absorbed into the wall, but you don't notice it at first, and you have to kind of look at it. So it's interesting. I'm curious to see how this is gonna go, because I'm like, okay, it's got a couple things that I like. It's got a team book. It's got some powers, and I'm like, I'm interested. And it wasn't like, but it wasn't bad. It had some interesting threads. I'm curious to see where it's gonna go. It's I don't know. Like it was like okay, number one. I wasn't too upset. Like it had an interesting premise. Like got me a little interested. It had enough that it wasn't revealing all its cards. So I'm curious to see where this is gonna go. But middle of the road, 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. It's definitely one that I would have never found. I mean, it's just a random book. Like I just happened to see on my little app that I have. of comic books coming out. I'm just so we'll see how the next one goes.
All right. For my last book, I discovered it's a new and an old book. It's Section Zero, also by Image. It's by Carl Kessel and Tom Grummett. And I guess they do story and art. Both of them. So this book started coming out a couple months ago, and I looked up something online, and it alluded that there had been an earlier iteration of this.
Well, the way they made it sound like it was an earlier series, like
Yeah.
there was another series before this.
So I looked those up to try to figure out, what was going on with this one. Well, when I grabbed the old series, I find out that they're the exact same book.
Same book.
But it only made it 3 issues, so I'm assuming that they're reprinting the first 3 issues, and then they're going to continue the story on from where it was. It's got an early Image feel to it, the art and the story. But I kind of liked it. The background is it's a special UN team that deals with the strange and unusual, and that there had been previous teams that had disappeared, or strange and unusual things happened to them, and they were investigating these time tunnels that manifested as you'd get a ring of fire, and then like a saber-toothed tiger jumps out of one, and
I think there was a dinosaur, wasn't there, at one point?
Yeah, their main scientist gets pulled into one, and they don't know where in time she is. So this issue starts out with the main character. What is his name again?
I don't remember, but I call him Sword Guy.
Wildman.
Sword Guy.
Sam Wildman. He dials a phone number and hangs up the phone, and you find out that there's this magic shop that the only way to get to it is you dial the special phone number, and then the next door that you open will be this magic shop.
Yeah, no matter what.
Yeah, no matter what.
Yeah, any door.
And the proprietress shamelessly flirts with him.
I was like, Madame Xanadu.
Yeah. And the sword that he carries, she says that him getting the sword off of her was the only time she ever lost in a business transaction. So he's coming to her for information, looking for
a way to get to the Ring of Fire.
And to find the scientist that they lost.
Because he's in love with her.
And
well, they were in love at one point, and now they're kind of separated, but he still loves her.
Well, and he alludes that she says, "Do you think you still love that woman?" "Of course not. You know that as well as I do." And she says, "And you knew the deal going in. I believe we both got what we wanted out of it." So somehow he traded either his ability to love or the love of this woman, for something from this gal. So
I feel like that's
somehow she's tied up in a love triangle with him, and
I feel like this is like the whole series, though. Like the whole series of Section Zero. Like I've read all 3 of them. And the whole series, it's like a lot of things that are being alluded to.
Yeah.
And that's why when you said, like, you feel like, after you read them, you feel like there should be another book that we missed. Like, all this crap is in another book, and we haven't read that yet. So if we read all this book, like, all these like things that they refer to would be more understanding. It's not like that.
No, it's coming later. And that was and in the early days of Image, all their books were like that. They all started in the middle, and there was these great, overarching secrets, and that was just sort of how you wrote an Image book back then. So, so he's looking for,
a way to get in.
A way to find these. And she says, she gives him instructions how to find an object to find the Ring of Fire. And she says, but once you find it, then I get the object when you're done with it, is the deal. So, so he goes off, the thing leads him to the subway, and he...
all things lead to New York subway.
Well, of course. So he goes down the subway. He finds a rat king, which is a big swarm of rats where their tails have all gotten tangled up together.
I wonder if
it disturbs me that this happens enough that they had to come up with a name for it. Yeah. So... then he meets a sewer dweller who points him in the right direction.
All the Morlocks.
And then he meets some Morlocks. And then he says the words that you never ever say in an adventure, at least things can't get any worse.
Yeah.
And then things get worse. So then his compatriots show up, which is an alien and a kid that has a magic tattoo that turns him into a bug for 24 hours, and a big fish man who was...
Like a Hulk.
Yeah, who was their enemy in the last book, but then it turns out he was a teammate that got lost for years under...
Again, another thing that you feel like you should have read another book, but it's not, you're okay.
Yeah. You're like, oh, so the other book was about the adventures of this first team.
Yeah.
No, not so much.
Not even a little bit.
No. So, and then the alien doesn't fully understand things.
But he's like one of the most powerful. Like, he's got telekinesis, and he heals, and he does all these kind of crazy things. And
so, so he tells them what they're looking for, and the alien goes off looking for it, and promptly gets captured by the bad guy.
Because the bad guy got the Wildman's sword.
Yeah, he lost his sword.
Yeah, the bad guy has it. So he ended up cutting the alien guy.
Yep. So there's some banter back and forth. That they.
He basically holds the alien hostage, saying, "If you guys do anything further, I'm gonna kill this." So they all kind of surrender a little bit.
Yep. And there's more banter. The good guys are tied up. You find out that the bad guys pass their power on by eating each other.
Yes, pass the knowledge of each king rat by eating.
Yeah. Then they're beset upon by a albino crocodile and or alligator. And then the good guys escape. They find out how strong the Fishman is. We're back to the Rat King bad guy threatening the alien. And then they find the Ring of Fire pendant. They throw the bad guy to the alligators. The alien wakes up and says, "Oh, I'll save you guys now. I was unconscious up until now." And then their benefactor shows up with this other force that you're supposed to know about.
Well, they brought him in last book, but they really don't explain it in last book either. Like, it wasn't like they...
Yeah, it's this commando force in uniforms, and they're all like dead or something, and so then the new force threatens the benefactor, and the alien freaks out.
Because it's kind of like his dad, sort of something. So the alien like kills the guy.
So then they fight over the talisman, and
the commandos end up destroying the talisman because they were like, if we can't have it, nobody's going to use it, and then they allude that there's two other ones.
Yeah.
There's two other ones that somewhere in the world, so they have to go find them.
And then the bug man does he still love her? And the trouble is, he wishes he did. And so then the sword guy finds the Rat King, and he's like, remember, we pass on our knowledge by eating each other. So all you gotta do is nom nom nom.
So the next issue, though, they have another. They've alluded that there's a fourth issue.
Yeah.
So
there wasn't a fourth issue in the original book. So this should be new material, or what they what never got published originally. So.
And it looks like they're gonna bring in maybe two new members.
Yeah.
Or old.
A new guy with the sword in the same costume as Wildman.
Yeah.
Or he's gonna be turned into a large bald black man. And then, and the kids, and that's the same. Well, the guy's got tattoos like the bug guy does.
I think it's a girl.
So maybe they'll bring this into the future.
Like everything's been passed on.
Yeah, maybe that. Maybe they were and these were the stories back in the 2000s. So, and then we're gonna come to the future. To the current future.
We shall see.
So it was fun. It was kind of a throwback to.
I really liked it. Like, I mean, it does not reinvent the wheel. It does not make a new square. It does not do anything super special. But they're interesting, fun characters. Like, I mean, the characters are fun. The powers are fun. It's like adventure.
It was a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah. I mean, like, it was right up my alley. Like, it was a team book, superheroes. I was in it to win it. I've really enjoyed all the stories, and like I said, like none of them, like they did not reinvent anything. It was just fun, different characters, and I really enjoyed it. So I liked it. I say 4 out of 5 unicorn horns. I can definitely see where people would be kind of bored with this if you are not a superhero fan. It would definitely not be up your alley. Like, it is very much and it reminds me. Tom Gromit did Powers Inc. or Powers Corporation. What was it called? Oh goodness, it was DC, and it was Elijah Power and Witchfire and Marksman and some other people, but like it was they had their own little team. This kind of reminds me of that. It's very much in the vein of that, where it's like these, just these individual characters and like about their adventures. Like they don't really get too complex.
No visible means of support.
Well, there's this mysterious benefactor that seems to be in charge of everything. So
I need one of those too.
I want to.
So I need Lair and a mysterious benefactor with really deep pockets.
Deep pockets to pay for said Lair that we're gonna have.
Yes.
So, I am torn on what I want to do next. I read this new book, Stronghold, but it was issue number 4, and I really feel like I don't have a good handle on it enough to explain it well. Because it wasn't a bad book, so I'm not gonna review that one. But it was a newer one. Should I do Scrolls, the ending of Scrolls, or Beasts of Burden?
Beasts of Burden.
Okay. Have you read this one?
No, but I've heard good things, and I've not heard good things about Scrolls.
Really?
Maybe you should do Scrolls.
I love Meet the Scrolls. It was. I mean, like it's the last issue, and it's just.
Then do it.
No, I'm gonna do Beasts of Burden. We're already on it. because I like this one too. Like, this one's really fun. It is the weirdest premise in the universe. But I'm in it. It's like magical. Like, okay, there's 3 humans. There's a dad, a daughter, and a son. And I think I reviewed the first book where they are like kind of like psychics.
Well, and they've done lots of Beast of Burden books.
See, I didn't know this.
Yes.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back.
Oh yeah, there's been tons of them.
Well, now I feel upset. Now I feel like I've been missing out this whole damn time. I'm just angry. God dang it. So, anyway, so there's 3 people. They're kind of like psychic. But they can hear, like, they are psychic enough that they know how they can hear these animals talk. And these animals are like, one's like a husky. He's like a werewolf kind of creature. One's like there's a set of cats that are magic. There's like
there's a Hellboy Beast of Burden crossover. There's a 4-part set, and then a volume 2.
Another Frencher. Like, now I just feel angry. I feel left out.
Now you've got a lot more stuff to
I know,
read.
now I'm going to have to go back and read all of it, because I really like this premise, though. It's really fun. So this particular book, they kind of talk about this lady that's possessed, and the dad was possessed last issue, but they kind of freed him somewhat. So they have brought him to this place to get healed. So it's this dog and cat's farm, and they are like, we planted some herbs outside of the human's garden so that we could, be able to heal people and do charms for people. And so they are trying to help this dad, trying to heal up. So they explain a little bit more. They talk about like what happened to the rats. They went back and the rats are gone because there was this big giant troll rat that came out of the ground and tried to kill everybody. And so one of the dogs, the basset hound, goes into like a seizure, but it's like he has a vision. But they don't quite know what the vision is, and so he comes out of it and he's fine. So then they're getting ready to leave, and all of a sudden this tree, they're like, I don't like that tree. It's like black, and they're like, and it's vibrating. And then all of a sudden, like, it bursts into like these like murder of crows, literally, because that's one of the coolest things in the world of Animal Kingdom is the fact that a flock of crows are called a murder. So, and they literally say like, this is a murder of crows. With me, my murder of crows. Blind them, bleed them, and kill them and eat them. I mean, that's some crap right there. Like, woo! That's like you watch a tree vibrate and all of a sudden burst in a bunch of crows. I mean, like, that's, if there's any other sign to run like for your life, that is definitely one of them. Like, if you ever see a tree burst into crows, please run for your life. So anyway, so they're all running for their lives and they're trying to protect each other and save each other. Well, this black cat jumps on the girl, and she's like, he's like, light your lighter. So he lights his lighter, and he says his magic words, and all of a sudden he's like, fire, claw, burn! And like this big giant flame shoots out and burns all the crows to death. Ah, magic cats! I'm like, yes! I love this book so much. So I want my life to be like this. I wish my cats were cool like this. They're definitely not cool like this. So then the dad kind of gets freaked out, and it's very weird. Like, the dad freaks out, so he grabs a basset hound that had the vision, and he's like, he kind of holds him hostage so the other animals don't follow him. And so he's like, he tells them to get in the car. So the husky dog is trying to stop him from leaving with this basset hound. So he jumps at him, and the dad shoots him, and he's on the ground. So the magic cats are trying to heal him and trying to get him back to life. And then all of a sudden he jumps up, and they're like, "Whoa, don't worry, Ace is gonna be fine. He's a werewolf now, so he's gonna kick somebody's butt." So he like takes off because he's like a werewolf. And then it cuts to the dad driving, and the kids are like, "Why are we doing this? Stop! We can't do this." And he's like, "Can you imagine how much money our debts will be paid if we give him this dog that has visions and all this stuff?" And so he's trying to get away. Well, all of a sudden the werewolf appears and jumps and like puts his head through the windshield. So they crash, and everybody's like, "Oh, well, we're crashed. We're hurting. They're trying to wake up." And the werewolf like snaps alive, and he's like trying to eat the dad. Well, he pulls the dad out of the car, and he's like, "Just give us the basset hound, and I'll leave you alone." So he gives him the dog, and the kids are obviously upset because they are like, why are you doing this, Dad? Like, this is like, they love the animals. Like, they're not on board with any of this. So they end up going back to the real world, and they talk about how reporters show up because of all the burnt crows. Like the pretend psychics and pretend ghost hunters show up, so they're trying to they figure it out, but nobody figures it out, and so finally they all go away. And then it kind of cuts to the dog in the future, and all the dogs and cats are dead in the cemetery. So I'm assuming that's like maybe what Jack saw, the Basset Hound saw for his vision. So yeah, so good. Like, I like the premise is really interesting and fun and different. The characters are fun and different. Like, I mean, I know they're animals. Obviously, they're going to be a little bit different. But I like the interaction between the human and animals. Like, they don't make it like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's not weird. Like, it works. It works for them. And they kind of explain, like, how it works. Like, because the daughter and the dad are kind of have a psychic power to where they can hear them. But the brother can't hear the animals talk. So he has to hold hands with the sister in order to use her gifts to be able to hear them. So, I mean, like, they kind of explain, they make it as realistic as possible without it being too hokey or even just being like, meh, it's just how it is. Don't worry about it. It's like, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtains. They do a really great job of explaining the things, telling about why things are this way or why it's that way. It's just so much fun. And the art is so beautiful. It's so pretty. It looks like a watercolor painting almost, but it's still very defined. I feel like you can tell all the characters. I don't know all the animals yet. Like, it's the big ones, because like it does get a little confusing with some of the cats. They kind of look similar. The dogs are a little bit easier to tell apart, obviously, because they're different breeds. But like, it's just a fun book. Like, it's really neat. It's like a supernatural book. It's very human almost. So I really enjoyed this book. So I give this one a 5 out of 5 so far. I'm really, because it really makes, and the other thing that I feel like is a mark of a good book is it makes you want to go back, and since there are more, it really makes me want to go back and read all the other ones, because I'm like, okay, I love this book, even though it's like, I'm volumes behind, but it really makes me want to go back and realize or see what the initial stuff is. So I think that's a really great mark of a book, but I just really like it. It's so far, and this is only the second one, so in this series, but it's pretty
Looks
cool.
like most of them are about 3 or 4 issues.
Is that what it is? Okay. So maybe just like a bunch of minis.
I think it's different animals. Somebody said it was different animals in each one. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in it. I like it. It's fun. Interesting. Did you get to read any extra ones this week?
I was going to,
besides your newish old ones.
Yeah.
I asked him if he got to read anything this week, and he goes, yeah, I read some new stuff, and I read some old stuff thinking it was new stuff, and talk about the Section 0 being reprinted. So yeah, fun stuff. I'm only going to go over my digital stuff, because I have a ton of stuff that I haven't read, but I try to read through all my digital stuff as quickly as I possibly can, because it's just easier sometimes to hold on to the digital and flip through. Dragon's Blood by Zenoscope. Have you read that one yet?
Not yet.
It's actually pretty interesting. Last issue, his family's kind of cursed to fight this dragon, and they always die. So he went, and he's the only one that survived. So this is book 2. They got him out of there. He's not quite sure how he got out of there. And he meets this girl named Freya. Hilarity ensues. It's just it's a fun book so far. Zenoscope is one of those that we've said in the past 1,000 times, and I still stick to it. Like, they don't do great stories that are super crazy or weird or new inventive things. They just do good books. Like, their art's pretty decent, their books are really good, their characters are really good. I haven't read, there's been, I think out of all I've read probably about 5 or 6 different titles of Zenoscope, the current ones, and there's only been one that I really wasn't it was the Dorothy one. I think that one's got too much backstory to be able to jump on. because I jumped on that one. I was like, I have no idea what's going on. Like, it was so confusing and weird. But other than that, like, Gretel's been really good. Robin's been really good. Dragon's Blood was really good. I read the Hellchild series. It was okay, but still, like, I don't feel like I'm wasting my time. I look forward to reading them. So, if you get a chance, check out some of the Zenescope books, because they actually are really, really pretty decent. Hashtag Danger, number 2. I read the first one. This one, it's getting a little childish. It's not as funny. It's weird, and I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like it is like Chris Garasso. He did G-Man, and he did like the mini Marvel characters, and he's done a couple books, but it's very much like if he did a whole book, like for like bigger characters instead of doing like the mini Marvels. Like, I don't know. It's just not my bag. It's okay. 2 out of 5 unicorn horns. Meh. Fallen World by Valiant. This is the kind of they had the father that had the city in the sky, and it has landed to Earth. The Rai of the group, the protector of the planet or whatever, the New Japan. He had to kill the father, which is kind of like the AI that took care of the whole planet. He had to kill him in order, for some reason. I didn't read it, so I have no idea. And so all this stuff has fallen to Earth, and it's about them kind of rebuilding. And so this is that book. So it's got a bunch of characters that I haven't read a lot of Valiant. I've only read like 2 Valiant books, new Valiant. And so I've read a lot of the old stuff, but this new stuff, I don't know any of these characters, so it gets kind of confusing for me a little bit, but still, I really like it. It's an interesting premise. Like, it's kind of like an apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy world, which is kind of interesting. They have a lot of characters in there that are kind of fun, and the art's pretty decent. So, Fallen World number 2, I'd say probably 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. I enjoy it. I read the first one, so I got the second one, so I'll probably get the third one. Shazam number 6, it just furthers the story along. They're kind of did you get to read that one yet? So it furthers along the story. Like, Billy and Mary escape, and they get back to the real world, and Billy meets his dad, and so and Mary ends up telling the parents, the foster parents, that they're actually Marvels, because they're all like, well, where's the other kids? And they're like, well, they're trapped, they're in danger, but don't worry. And she turns into Mary Marvel, and she's like, we'll save them, you know. And it's like, oh God, you're not. Ooh, that's not gonna be good. no good can come out of that. So, but I really like the Shazam book. It's been really fun. The art's been really fun.
Yet?
No, I have not seen the movie yet. I know. I have a lot of things to do. Lots of stuff on my list. New Agents of Atlas. It's been fun. I really enjoyed it. Again, another superhero group. A lot of characters. I like the characters are fun. They're going through this adventure. I like the World Realms tie-ins. Like, they've really added to the story a little bit. Most crossovers get a little, like, I don't really like the tie-ins, but this one's actually been kind of enjoyable. Same with Journey into Mystery. They're trying to say, so that one I'd probably give a 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. War of the Realms, Journey into Mystery. I love this book. I'd probably give 4 out of 5 unicorn horns, just because the cast is so stupid and weird, and like, I don't even know why they put the weirdest cast ever. It's got like Death Locket, which is like part cyborg, and then like the female Hawkeye, Kate Hudson, and Wonder Man, and Baldar, and who's come back from the dead, and then the Druid from Secret War. I mean, like, it's just the most random ass team I've ever seen in my life. But it's fun. Like, it's funny and quirky, and kind of, I really enjoy that. So I like that one. 4 out of unicorn horns. Meet the Skrulls. I really enjoyed this book. This is the last one. Apparently, I'm the only one in the world that likes this one. It reminded me a lot of like the Americans. They had a TV show, Americans, where it was the KGB in the 80s, sleeper agents. They were infiltrated the FBI and all this stuff. And it reminds me a lot of that, where it was like this kind of like these sleeper agents that are kind of trying to perform this task, and it ends up being them trying to save their daughter, who got kidnapped, and they've been experimenting on her. And then, like, this last book, they reveal that the dad was killed in the last book by their handler, and so the handler is trying to get he's trying to kidnap all of them to give them to the government so that he can be kind of like he wants to give them to the government to experiment on so he can kind of be in charge of everything. So and so they get betrayed by their handler, and so they kind of they try to fight him, and then it ends like interesting. The dad's dead, but the kids and the mom try to go on, and I mean it was an interesting book. The art's kind of sketchy and weird, but it works well for the alien kind of aspect of it. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that they only did a 5-issue miniseries. I don't think it's something like they can maybe do miniseries of these. I think would be really neat, like doing different missions and trying to survive. I liked it. I thought it was fun. I don't know why everybody else hated it. Haters gonna hate. So 4 out of 5 unicorn horns. I really enjoyed it. Captain Marvel, unfortunately, did not. It's just Captain Marvel is turned into not a Captain Marvel book. It's like Marvel's team up. Like that's what it is. Like every issue, it's about her teaming up with other people and about her doing this. And so now she's teaming up with Black Widow. Black Widow is fighting the Enchantress for War Over the Realms, and she goes to try to kill her. Enchantress like knocks her back, and they get like some kind of psychic crossover, and so she gets this vision that the way to defeat Enchantress is she has to get Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel together. So Black Widow gets Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange together, and then Enchantress uses her magic to switch their bodies. So Captain Marvel's in Doctor Strange's body, and Doctor Strange is in Captain Marvel's body now. So like they're kind of like confused because obviously neither one of them know how to use each other's powers, and so but it just again like the last few issues were her and all these other characters, all these female characters, and it's just like it's like a team up book. It's not a Captain Marvel book, which I mean I don't know. Not my bag. I like the team ups, but I wanted to read Captain Marvel and actually learn about Captain Marvel, but it's not. It is what it is. 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. The art's so good. I still enjoyed. I didn't hate myself after reading it, but it wasn't. It's not what I want it to be. The Stronghold book was number 4. I came in at number 4, and so I have no idea what's going on. There's an alien that this girl's trying to protect, and she has some kind of nanotech that she can morph her hands into like liquid metal something or other. And that's about where I end. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna rate it because I don't think I can give it enough chance. It is interesting enough for me to want to go back and read the rest of them and see if I can piece it together, because this book wasn't that bad and the art was pretty decent. So, but still, you can't glom anything from issue 4 to just pick it on up. Wildfront, I did number 1 a couple weeks ago, and this is number 2. They kind of talk about their Superman character, how he's like addicted to this like moon rock because he got stranded on the moon, and he used this moon rock to be able to get his powers. As they started depleting, he was growing the plants, but they started deteriorating. They needed to be up in the atmosphere, and he can't grow them, and so they made the synthetic thing, and so the synthetic like powers, like it's super addictive for him, and they don't last as long, so he's like kind of going crazy, and he's becoming like this addict. So just imagine Superman like on crack, like that would be what this character is. So that's kind of his story. They kind of further along a little bit the story that they had last book, where the louse, the bug creature, he's kind of morphing more and more into more of a bug, and he killed his friend, the female that he was kind of seeing. He killed her or having an affair with. And so now they're kind of realizing that he's probably the one that's going crazy. So it just, I mean,
who's that by?
I want to say Action Comics, Action Lab, yeah.
Okay.
So it's a fun book. It's interesting. The art is a little bit more cartoony than I would like, because it's not a crisp cartoony. It's a sketchy cartoony. So sometimes I have a hard time. Your problem is telling the characters apart. Like, I'm like, I think that's who that is, but I'm not for sure. And so that, like, with the louse, like, he's turning slowly into a bug. Well, it's like all of a sudden he shows up, and last issue he only had like these weird arms. This issue he has like weird arms, legs, and he has like giant claws. And I'm like, and it's just all of a sudden. Like this is like one panel, like he shows up and he's like, and I'm like, who the hell is this character? And then I realize it's this other character. So that kind of gets a little confusing and it takes you out of the story a little bit because you're trying to figure out who's who. So I wish that was a little more crisp, but I feel like the art has a certain style that just because I read the first issue and that's what it is, I feel like they kind of have something there. And then Sharky the Bounty Hunter, issue number 4. It was pretty good. It's just a continuation. They're trying to find this bounty. Come to find out, she knows so much about the world, and so she's kind of trying to get everybody to understand that she's actually like she's the bounty hunter, or she's the bad guy that's trying to help. And people are starting to realize this. But then these other people come and they take her away. They kidnap her from Sharky from Return of the Bounty, and then hilarity ensues. So, unfortunately, again, the art is so fluid and like it's beautiful, but it's very hard to tell who the heck is who. I'm like, some of these characters look like, I don't know. Like, it's just really hard sometimes. Because he does get very artistic with it. And fluid. I just wish it was a little more crisp. So that I could tell who is who sometimes. So, but 3 out of 5 unicorn horns. Nothing too bad. And Worldfront, 3 out of 5 unicorn horns again, too. Just a good read. Just something fun and simple. But, so, that's it. It's a lot of books.
Yep.
And I still have a whole stack over there to read. All the crap that I read every week. Which I'm excited though. Paper Girls. I read Paper Girls. And I guess it's coming to a conclusion. I really like this book. So I'm excited to see how it's going to end. I'm glad it's ending. Because it is kind of getting to the thing where they're kind of getting to stories that are a little bit... I feel like they're reaching a little bit. So I'm glad they're kind of ending it. I'm glad they're finishing on a high note. I love Cliff Chang's art. His art is phenomenal. So... really fun book, so I'm interested to see. So I'm gonna try to review that book when it ends. I'm excited to see the very ending. But anyways, until next week, if you can, like, share, and subscribe. We'd love to have more people. I say it all the time, and I'm gonna say it again anyways. I want to start a conversation with comic books. I just love comic books so much. I really enjoy them. I've collected them for many, many years, and always having more people, more comments, more things for us to read, things that you would like to read, things that you have an opinion about, we would love to hear. If you can, you're more than welcome to comment below. I will have the times of all the books at some point in my life. I will get that done. But until then, we hope your pull list is full. Bye.